Hi, well here we are with lesson 1 and I'm sure you can't wait to get stuck into learning to play guitar. Just before we start, please make sure you've watched the introduction videos that I've made. There's three that precede this. There's an introduction, a video on guitar terminology which we'll be using pretty extensively through lessons, and then there's a video on how to keep your guitar in tune. So really important to get to grips with all those before you start with lesson 1. And just a few things to say before we do start in earnest. The guitar is a very physical instrument to learn. So you're going to be using muscles in both hands that you're not used to using. So to begin with, it's going to feel quite uncomfortable, but please be patient. Okay, your learning curve, everybody learns differently. So it's just a case of little bits of practice. I would recommend somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes over these first few lessons, just short bursts of practice. And that way you will see the results and the progress. Now, just one more thing to say about this beginner's online guitar course is that I don't want you to go through this learning process on your own. I think a lot of people do learn guitar or any instrument. It's a kind of very isolated process to a lot of people. And I want to kind of create a family community here at Twang. So we've created a forum where you can join other people and discuss and compare your learning experiences. Anything you find difficult, then you can go on and discuss with other people. I'll be coming on once a week as well to answer any questions, any problems that you may be having. Okay, so it's important to realise that you're going through this with a lot of other people. Everybody has the strengths and weaknesses, and other people and myself will be able to help you through those difficult periods. We all come up against little brick walls and blocks from time to time, and we're all here to help you through that. Okay, so lessons are going to come in two parts. There's two aspects to learning guitar, particularly over the first few weeks and months. We have single note work, which create melodies, riffs and solos. Okay, and then we have chords. Now, the definition of a chord is when we play or strum 3 or more notes together. Okay, so for today's first lesson, I'm going to be giving you a finger exercise to get you started on the single note work. It's great for improving your dexterity and coordination with both hands, and that'll set us up for future lessons. And then for the second half of the lesson, I'm going to be teaching you 3 chords. Okay, but first of all, I think it's probably important to get started on how to hold a plectrum. Can be called a plectrum or a pick, either's fine. So they come in all sorts of different shapes and sizes. I would recommend that you use kind of a medium thickness with a little bit of flexibility. So nothing too thick and hard, and nothing too soft, which makes it too flexible. So something, in between, nice and medium thickness with a little bit of flexibility. And you're going to hold the plectrum between the ball of your thumb and the knuckle of your first finger. Okay, holding the plectrum about 2/3 of the way. So your thumb and your finger is going to be holding about 2/3 of that plectrum, with about 1/3 showing underneath. Okay, and that's how you're gonna make contact with the strings. So some bad little techniques that you need to avoid is that sort of thing, holding the plectrum in a fist, or a bit too flimsy, not getting a good grip of the plectrum, and that's going to move around and not give you good contact. Okay, now when we make contact with the string, you need to keep a nice straight forearm, and the flat part of the plectrum needs to make contact with the string. So that the pointed part of the plectrum is going to be leading, but you need to make a contact with the flat part of the plectrum. So not with any of the edge, nice and flat. And all I want you to do to start with is just pluck down the strings from the 6th string down to the 5th, onto the 4th, and onto the 3rd, onto the 2nd, and then the last one, the 1st string there. So when you're plucking the string, you need to pluck it with enough force to make a nice bold sound. but not too strong so that you pluck several strings at once. Okay, so you just, when you're practicing this, a good way of judging the force with which you pluck the string is to just let the plectrum come to rest on the string below, like so. Okay, so that's your first little bit of practice, is just to get used to plucking those strings in that manner. Okay, so nothing too soft and nothing too hard, so that you drag the plectrum over several strings. You just get used to the kind of the amount of strength you need to pluck that string. Okay, I'm going to introduce my other hand now, the hand that's going to be playing the notes, or playing the frets. In my case, I'm right-handed, so it's going to be my left hand that's fretting the notes. If you're left-handed, then obviously it's the other way around. Your left hand will be using the plectrum, and your right hand will be fretting the notes. Now I'm going to give each finger a number, 1 to 4. Finger 1, 2, 3, and 4. Thumb doesn't count because it's not actually fretting any notes. Okay, and I'm just going to demonstrate the little finger exercise we're going to be doing. We'll be starting on the 3rd string, and each finger is going to take care of its own fret. So your first finger is going to take care of the 1st fret, your second finger is going to take care of the 2nd fret, your 3rd finger the 3rd, and the 4th the 4th fret. And your little finger, or your pinky, is obviously your smallest and weakest. So that's going to feel like it's going to need a little bit more work. Okay, but like I said at the beginning of the lesson, we're using muscles in both hands that you're not used to using. So to begin with, it's going to feel a little bit awkward. But trust me, with a week's practice, it's going to really free up all the sort of movement and dexterity in your fingers and coordinate both hands. So I'm just going to demonstrate the finger exercise. Here we go. Starting on the 3rd string, but we can progress on from that in your practice during the week, and I'll explain how later. Okay, so as you can see from that, I was progressing from the 1st fret on the 3rd string along the first 4 frets using my 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th fingers, then moving on to the 2nd string, 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th again, and then all the way onto the 1st string, the same number of frets. Now, the important thing about positioning your fingers in the frets is to position them towards the front. So anywhere from the middle towards the front of the fret without quite touching that metal fret marker there is a perfect position for fretting those notes. If you get slightly too far back, you hear how nasty that sounds, and that's not that's something you don't want. So nice and forward in the frets, and that way as well you can reach into the 2nd, 3rd and 4th fret in the same position. If you're too far back, then it's going to be the same all the way through. You're not going to reach the next fret. Okay, so I'll play that nice and steady again. There'll be close-ups as well on the screen for you to see real close for both hands how we're going to be playing. So here we go. Now, just as important is your thumb position, okay? Now your thumb, I'm just going to just turn around here, give you the thumb position, which you would want to aim for, which is the flat part of your thumb around the back of the neck there. Your thumb's going to support your fingers, and it's going to offer really crucial support. So it's important to get your thumb position right, and it needs to be like that, because also that'll free your fingers up to span and stretch into each fret. If your thumb position ends up being flat against the neck, which might feel comfy for you to begin with, but isn't good, that means that you can't stretch those fingers into the necessary frets. So your thumb needs to be nice and flat against the back of the guitar, against the back of the neck of the guitar there. And again, try to avoid that. That's not good. It's going to cause you some sort of pain and strain on your thumb there. So the ball of your thumb against the neck is perfect. Okay, just a couple more things to say about your right hand or your picking technique. First of all, when we're picking single notes, it's quite important to have your picking hand anchored to the guitar somewhere. On my guitar, I've got quite a large bridge here, so I can just drop the palm of my hand onto the edge of the bridge there. And what that does, it stabilises my hand and enables me to really sort of be stable and pick those strings. I can feel which string I'm picking, and it keeps me right hand nice and stable. And just for the finger exercise as well, just important to note that we're going to just play down picks only. Okay, down picks only for now. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to walk you through that little exercise nice and slowly again. We're going to ascend the strings from the third string up to the first string, nice and steady. Make sure you get both hands doing the right thing. If something's going wrong or it doesn't feel right, just check your position, check your thumb position around the back of the neck, and check your finger positions that they're nice and forward towards the front of the fret on each string. Okay, so we're gonna go up the strings first of all, up the frets and across the three strings. So nice and steady. So as we were going up there, as you could see, I was leading with my first finger, frets 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now we're going to come back down the opposite way, which is a little bit trickier. And as you come back across the strings from string 1 to 3, I'm going to be leading with my little finger on my pinky. Okay, so coming back down. Now the other thing to notice as well is that I'm holding those notes on for a nice length of time. Don't want to cut them short. Now the slower you make this exercise, the easier it's going to be to begin with, and you can always build up speed as you go on through the week. So one other thing to avoid is this. Okay, so just keep those notes held on a nice length of time, so that they all run smoothly into each other. Okay, on to chords now. And as I said at the beginning of the lesson, the definition of a chord is 3 or more notes played together. And in terms of guitar, sometimes we strum 6 strings, sometimes 5 strings, and sometimes only 4. Depending on the type of chord. Now I'll be explaining a bit about that later on in today's lesson. First of all, strumming techniques. Okay, slightly different from single notes. well, very different. In fact, we don't want your strumming hand anchored to the guitar in this kind of playing. We're going to want it nice and free. And you want a nice relaxed forearm with a nice loose wrist. And I kind of liken the strumming action to a paintbrushing action. Okay, so you can practice this without any fretting hand on. Okay, so just brushing down the strings, nice and loosely, nice and relaxed. And what you tend to find is if your wrist's too tight, get a bit of more of a wooden sound, which you might start off like that. We all start off, you know, just getting used to that sort of brushing action. You can practice that just across all the 6 strings, just getting used to the feel of the strumming action. And you might need to just hold your plectrum a little bit differently as well, because again, if you hold it too tightly, that's when your wrist stiffens up a bit. Okay, and it's finding that balance, because if you hold it too loosely, again it might slip and move within your fingers. So it's just finding that right balance. Okay, onto the fretting hand and how we hold chords down. And first of all, it's just important to explain the chord diagrams, how chord diagrams are written on the musical page. And when you see a chord diagram, it's a bit like looking at your guitar that way on. Okay, with the nut here at the top. The vertical lines on the diagram are your strings, represent your strings, and the horizontal lines are your fret markers. And the black dots in there represent your fretting fingers. So again, fingers 1, 2, 3, and 4. And chords drop into 2 categories: major chords and minor chords. I'm going to explain a lot more about those in later lessons. All you need to know for now is that they're just 2 different types of sound. The sound completely different. Like I said, I'll be explaining a bit more about that. We're going to be learning 3 chords: A major, E major, and D major today. And I think the hardest thing you'll do really as a new guitarist is to change from one chord to another. So it's a bit harder to begin with than these single note exercise that we've just done, because we're holding down several strings at once. So it tends to be a bit more tricky. And then changing from one chord to another is tricky still, because you have to kind of memorize that shape, that chord shape, before you can efficiently change between the chords. But that'll all come in time. And like I said, you've got to be really patient. Take your time with learning these, and that progress will come. So on with the first chord then that we're going to learn, which is an A major chord. And we're going to strum down just 5 strings, because the root of that chord is your A string here, the 5th string, which is tuned to an A note. So that's what we call the root of the chord. And that's strummed as the open string. Your first finger is then going to play the 4th string, 2nd fret. And your second finger's going underneath that on the 3rd string, 2nd fret. And then your 3rd finger underneath that as well, keeping all 3 fingers in that 2nd fret. If you notice, my thumb is slightly in a different position. So now some people prefer to play chords again with the thumb around the back. It's fine if you don't want. If you're more comfy with your thumb over the top of the neck, with the neck of the guitar sitting just in the crook of your hand, then that's fine, because that gives a nice bridge over the other strings for your fingers to work in. All right, so that's your A major chord, and we're strumming down 5 strings from the A string. And I want you to strum in groups of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to be explaining why in lesson 2, when we put these 3 chords into what we call a sequence or a chord progression. We're going to strum in groups of 4. So you count in groups of 4 for now. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the next chord we're going to learn is an E major chord. This time we're going to strum from the 6th string, which is which is tuned to an E note, which again is the root of the chord. And first finger is going to go on the 3rd string, 1st fret. Second finger up on the 5th string, 2nd fret. 3rd finger underneath that one, like so. Okay, and again we're going to strum down all 6 strings. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the 3rd chord we're going to learn today is the D major chord. And this time it's only strummed from the 4th string, because that's the open D, and again the root of the chord. First finger this time is on the 3rd string, 2nd fret. Second finger right down on that 1st string, 2nd fret. 3rd finger in the middle there on the 2nd string, 3rd fret. And like I said, we're going to strum down 4 strings on the D major chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now it doesn't matter if sometimes when you're strumming you catch the 5th string there. It'll still sound okay, it won't sound too bad. What you want to avoid is that bottom 6th string when you're strumming the D, because it will sound pretty nasty. Okay, so be nice and controlled when you're strumming if you can. Don't worry if you catch the 5th, it's going to happen. And again, we're only going to stick to down strums today, so just keep into down strums. 1, 2, 3, 4. To your E major. 1, 2, 3, 4. To your D. 2, 3, 4. And just practice each of those chords individually. Don't worry about the changes. The changes will come quicker in later lessons, and I'll be showing you how to speed up those changes once you get used to those 3 chord shapes and holding down those 3 chords. Okay, so that concludes this week's lesson. Now, your practice schedule for this week then should be: begin with the finger exercise just as I've taught it. Be really nice and slow. Keep that good quality notes, nice and long. Remember both hand positions, check both hand positions and your thumb position as well, and work your way nice and slowly through that finger exercise. If you so wish and you've got used to those 3 strings, then you can move down onto the 4th and 5th string. That's a nice little progression onwards. If you want to stick to 3 strings, that's fine. You can progress on with the finger exercise in the coming weeks. It's a great warm-up. Whatever we're doing instrumental wise, that finger exercise is a great warm-up, and it'll stand us in good stead for next week when we're going to learn the first part of an instrumental. And I'm also going to be showing you how we read a certain type of guitar music as well. Okay, we don't need to worry too much about standard music notation. We have a special type of guitar music called tablature, but I'm going to be explaining that in next week's lesson. So that finger exercise is going to really stand us in good stead for that, coordinating both hands. And then just go through those 3 chords that we've learned as well today, practicing your strumming technique, nice and loose strumming technique, and just getting used to those chord shapes so you can hopefully memorize each one where you're putting your fingers. If you can learn those from memory and not have to rely on the chord diagrams, then that's your eventual aim. Doesn't matter if you don't get through that this week. Again, that'll come in its own time. Okay, well, so that's all for this week. I hope you really enjoy your playing, your first lesson, and your first week getting to grips with the different aspects of playing guitar. And I look forward to seeing you next week.